Good evening and welcome. Happy New Year, everyone. So, this is the beginning of the 2021 series of lectures through the Warner Library. And the first topic of the year is anxiety and depression. The reason I think this topic was selected is because there are almost 254 million Americans who are suffering from this disease. And because of the current situations which we were going through in 2020 and continuously going through every day, many more are being added to that list every day because of the circumstances, losing job, working from home, or concerned about the COVID-19 and the fear of getting sick or fear of losing someone. And many more concerns. So anxiety and depression is becoming a big issue, and we need to learn, understand how we can manage that condition. So when you look at the depression, there are many descriptions where it says the common and serious medical illness that negatively affect how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. Depending on the feelings, the actions will also change. Causes feelings of sadness and or a loss of interest in activities once enjoyed. It can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems and can decrease a person's ability to function at work and also at home. To be diagnosed, the symptoms must be present for at least 2 weeks. The good thing is it's treatable. So it's a very common condition. And when we look at the somebody who is depressed, we can tell, and a person knows that person is under some kind of emotional or mental stress. Affects 264 million people of all ages suffer from depression globally. Depression is a leading cause of disability worldwide. More women are affected by depression than men. And also, if you look at the types of depression, persistent depressive disorder, at least for 2 years, perinatal depression during pregnancy, psychotic depression, depression plus psychosis, seasonal affective disorder, again it changes, mostly during the winter time when there's no sun out. So people who are solar powered, they feel depressed when there's no sunlight. Bipolar disorder, depression plus mania. So we are going over some description, different types, but the main goal is to see what causes it. There has to be some kind of deficiency in the person which causes depression or anxiety, even though both are two extremes of the same fulcrum, which we call balance. So when body is in balance, when you're balanced physically or mentally, then we are in good mental, physical, emotional shape. But when something goes out of balance, on one end it will be depression, on the other extreme it will be anxiety, overstimulation or no stimulation at all. So then we bring it to little biology here. We look at the area of the brain affected by depression. We look at the amygdala, thalamus, hippocampus. So if we look at our brain, we're not going to go too much in depth, but we look at one part which is considered as the SCN, and we look at the suprachiasmatic nuclei, which basically produces, which have about, there are two of them, contains about 10,000 neurons, and the circadian rhythm starts from there. And circadian rhythm actually is the rhythm which maintains how our body regulates. The stimulus starts from there. So the three main organs, we're looking at the amygdala, thalamus, and hippocampus. So when we're looking at those, the hippocampus is roughly in the center of the brain, and that is the organ which is responsible for memories. So it basically contains memories, and that's we store information for a long period of time. During any kind of stress, a physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, and sometimes stress is real, and sometimes stress is because of some kind of disease we are going through. Weakness, physically, mentally, and that weakness may be caused by many other factors. Could be some environmental factors or could be biological factors. When that happens, body produces cortisol, and then cortisol, basically we call that fight or flight, basically chemical. And then when that is happening, then the hippocampus is affected. So a continuous supply of cortisol will will stimulate continuously, and eventually the body is not able to store the information. So our brain is not able to store the information, so that will affect the memory. So some amount of cortisol is important, we know that, but again, if it continuously producing more and more and more, and it is supplied to the brain also, so that will affect the memory, and the person starts forgetting if there's a continuous supply. Also, we look at the prefrontal cortex, which is basically in the front of the brain, that also is handling emotions, are also making decisions for forming memories. So when the decisions are made, it goes through the emotional process, it handles emotions, and the memory of those moments is eventually going to become our permanent storage, which goes into memory. And that organ also, or that part of the brain also, if there is a continuous supply of cortisol, will also shrink. And so the neurons in that area start shrinking. And when that shrinks, then again, of course, there is not much of a memory left. And so that gets overstimulated because of continuous supply of cortisol. Then we're looking at the amygdala, and that is also an organ which is facilitate emotional, basically responses. So emotional response, anytime we are enjoying a moment, or we are enjoying some pleasures in life, so that part of the brain will be used in that function. Again, the continuous supply of cortisol going into the cortisol inside the brain, that will also, constant exposure will disturb that. And the disturbance in that part of the brain will disturb the sleep pattern. And if there is not enough sleep, then there is not enough rest. And eventually that is also being affected. So basically what we are looking at a constant stress in life, which will produce more cortisol level. And that cortisol level is going to overstimulate the hippocampus. Whereas because of the overstimulation continuously for days and days and days, the storage or the memory will not be stored for a long period of time. Neuron, the thalamus, the prefrontal cortex will also shrink, so the memories are not stored. And also amygdala is also affected, so the pleasure, or those we don't feel any pleasure, and only thing we feel is the stress, and eventually we call that depression. So looking at that, we know that what to blame is the continuous supply of cortisol level, and that is where the chemistry comes, where we need to make sure, even though there are stressful moments, we learn to manage those. And that's where the different therapies come. And therapy, basically therapist is talking to you, trying to make you strong, so you are able to handle the situation well. And that's where the family, friends, significant others come to make sure we are together. Again, we support each other, and through sport, the best person to support you is you yourself, where you can tell yourself that things are not going to be the same for a long period of time, and then times will get better. But again, there are many other conditions which will make the overproduction of cortisol and continuous supply, which will also go into the brain and affect the brain. So one organ which or one rhythm which maintains majority of the body is the circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is starting or produced by the SCN, which is basically the suprachiasmic nuclei. And suprachiasmic nuclei, like I said before, is they're basically two bilaterally groups or paired groups of the neurons and contain about 10,000 neurons. And these actually are producing the or starting the stimulus, and that stimulus basically is called the Zeitersburg function, where the stimuli come with different functions in the body. Again, there is a function for when we are hungry, when we are happy, when we are sleeping. So the pattern start, and that pattern actually is our circadian rhythm. So basically, there is a time to sleep, there's a time to eat, there's time to doing certain things, and that pattern is what is produced by this SCN, and that will affect the circadian rhythm all the time. But then we have social circadian profiles, basically looking at the psychosocial environment, which is our cycle or circle of friends and significant others. Then there are sometimes traumatic life events or the somatic diseases. All these will affect the circadian rhythm also. So on one side, we are dealing with the organ which is managing the circadian rhythm, but that organ can also be affected by for many reasons. Again, the main are these three: psychosocial environment, traumatic life events, and the somatic disease. But that will affect the Zeitersburg function, and when that is affected, that will disturb the circadian rhythm, and disturbed circadian rhythm will cause the depression. Okay, so when you're looking at the day and night function, 24-hour rhythm of the body, the time to wake up, time for a walk, time for relaxation, all that timing is disturbed. And then first thing we find in an individual who had a disturbed circadian rhythm, person becomes a couch potato. They don't want to move. They feel so tired. They feel exhausted. And in certain cultures, the term depression actually does not exist. I deal with many parents who are Asians, and the depression basically is called laziness. And so in that culture, still, many people will not believe there is a disease or a condition called depression. If child is not moving, they call them lazy, and keep pushing them that need to get up and do something. But in one sense, when you start moving around, you feel better. So that is the first symptom we feel in a depressed person: persistent sadness, anxious, or empty mood. They do not want to do anything. Either they are overstimulated or have nothing to do. Just feel like life is not worth why I'm doing this. What is the purpose? What I'm going to get out of this? Hopelessness or pessimism, feelings of helplessness, worthlessness, guilt, decreased energy or fatigue, loss of interest or pleasure, moving or talking slowly, feeling restless, thought of death or suicide, and that becomes an extreme. Appetite, weight change, they don't feel hungry, or sometimes they will keep eating just to do something. Difficulty sleeping or waking. Also, aches and pains, digestive issues, headaches, cramps, without any clear, basically, physiological change or any reason for that one. Whereas when you look at the anxiety, it's total opposite of that. Anxiety is an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried through and physical changes like increased blood pressure, or basically the word thoughts. The thought process is the one which needs to be controlled. When we have a negative thought, we feel depressed, or when we are worried about something and get over anxious, the blood pressure increases, the heart rate increases, the breathing increases, and sometimes we are basically don't even breathe, just hold our breath for so long. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the US, affecting 40 million adults in the United States, age 18 or older, or 18.1% of the population every year. And that is a lot of people. Anxiety disorders are highly treatable, yet only 36.9% of those suffering receive treatment. Like I said, many people don't even consider that as a disease. and again will not seek medical care, or will just self-treat themselves, or something will be blamed, or being treated for some other conditions, not anxiety. The types: panic disorder, social anxiety disorder, very common, specific phobias for different reasons, generalized anxiety disorder, which is basically the, again, very common condition. So the causes are still unknown. I was looking at the Center for Disease Control to find something which can relate to the cause of that. Only thing I found that basically smoking is a big factor, that individuals who smoke tend to have the higher incidence of the anxiety disorder. The exact cause of anxiety disorder is unknown, but anxiety disorders, like other forms of mental illness, are not the result of personal weakness, a character flaw, or poor upbringing. There are other factors involved. As research continues, it is becoming clear that many of these disorders are caused by a combination of factors, including changes in the brain and environmental stress. Environmental factors: heavy metals, mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic. So basically, we're looking at these neurotoxins, and there are parasites which are systemic. So we need to be looking at what is causing. So when we have any condition, main thing we're looking at the food, or the intake of the food, what we drink, what we eat. Maybe that is also bringing us not only not a lack of nutrients, but also some external factors which will affect our body function or the brain function. And at this point, the environmental factors mostly are heavy metals, and many times we also find occupational metals or occupational chemicals. The place of work may not be as healthy as we would like to be. And so, considering that, the goal should be to remove those causes, not just taking medication. So many times when we look at anxiety and depression, is also caused by over medication, over the counter medication, different drugs. So even though we may take those for a reason, but again, the side effect of those will also cause anxiety or depression. It is not uncommon for someone with an anxiety disorder to also suffer from depression, or vice versa. So basically, like there are two sides of the same balance. And sometimes person is anxious one day and basically depressed the next day. Nearly one half of those diagnosed with depression are also diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. So this is like continuation process we need to be looking into. Anxiety and depression during COVID, again, because of the stress, which again, this is real. And so far, even though vaccine is out and people are saying thanks, 2020 is over, but 2020 is over, COVID is still here. And so the vaccine is out very soon. Many people will be getting the vaccine, and hopefully it will work. But again, just imagine how many people were sick, how many passed away, and the loss of the jobs, loss of the business, all the things which have impacted our life because of COVID-19 have caused a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression. And there were many individuals who were stressed because they had to work from home. So we're looking at the anxiety and depression symptom, 31%, trauma, 26%, started or increased substance use, 13%, and seriously considered suicide, 11%. These are a lot of people. So when we look at those, again, this is late June, and this is old data. And so now we are in January of 2021. Many more have been added to this list. And so it takes time before we get the information from Centers for Disease Control. But again, it is affecting a lot of people, and because of the stress continuously. So basically, the goal is same. We need to learn to manage the stress. So we need to learn to manage the production of the chemicals through our body. We need to be really looking at how we can control the circadian rhythm, how we can control the stimuli, and how we can manage our balance in physical and mental health. So Ayurvedic medicine takes a different route to the approach. Again, first we'll go over some definition. Is science of life, more than 6,000 years old. basically recognize uniqueness in all of us. And basically in the Ayurveda, we're looking at the body type. There are three main: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Vata is a combination. So all three are made from five great elements: space, air, water, fire, and earth are the five elements. Space and air makes the Vata body type or dosha. The fire and water makes Pitta or Pitta. The water and earth makes the Kapha. So water and earth makes Kapha. That is the mud, basically the building material, though. So the structural material, the bones, ligament, tissues, fat, what we look like is coming from the Kapha. The Pit makes the metabolism, endocrine system, all the hormones, what we react like. But Vat, which is air and space, controls the movement. And since when you look at the depression, anxiety, it controls the movement of the motor and sensory pathways, which means the nervous system, the circulation. So when there's not much activity, that's called depression. When it's too much activity, it's called anxiety. That is a disease which happens usually in Vata individuals or people who have hyperactive or not active one of Vata. So basically, this is controlled by Vata. So in this case, our goal should be one thing: to improve circulation, to improve the heat inside the body. So Vata individual, because of air, are usually dry, skinny, thin, dry skin, cold. And so in that case, the cold is the first symptom. Head and feet are always cold. Then we have the Pit individuals who have heat. It means they are warm by nature, well built, and they are basically feeling more hot. And in case of Pit, and there, so Pit are also sharp. In case of Kapha, these are individuals which have more of the earth sign and the water sign. Because again, this is basically sluggishness, slowness. They're heavy built and also cold. So the cold is in Kapha and the Vata, but also the Vata are more dry, skinny, dry skin, thin hair. So this is a Vata disorder. Even though all individuals, doesn't matter if their main body type is Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, all have three. We all have structure. We all have metabolism and hormones or endocrine system. We all have circulation, blood circulation, the motor sensory circulation, the movement of food, the movement of air, gas exchange, filtration of the kidneys. So all of that is under movement, which is controlled by Vata or Vata. So the Vata is something to be controlled or balanced to balance the nervous system also. So when you're looking at the Ayurveda, it says the balance is the what maintains the body. And so is a definition: hita hitam sukham dukham ayustasya hita hitam manam chatachyatoktam Ayurveda sauchade, which means the one which teaches us advantageous, disadvantageous, happy and unhappy life, what is good or bad for life, and its measurement is called Ayurveda. So basically, it's a way of life trying to bring balance in the body. Is again looks at the uniqueness if all of us and the original body, mind, spirit medicine, trying to emphasize the prevention rather than the treatment base. So in this case, we need to look at how we can treat that. So the Vata disorder caused by imbalance of Vata causes 80 different diseases, and all of that basically controlled by circulation. So we need to manage that. The Visham Agni, the imbalance in the heat or the Agni, is something to be concerned about. Agni, which is again requires for metabolism and also for changing different dhatus or different states of tissues to the next state. Increase of Vata in Majja Dhatu. So there are 7 dhatus, which means whatever we consume, depending on our metabolic fire, which is the Agni, majority of that will be converted into the Rasa Agni. The extract of what we eat turns into body fluids, depending upon how much Agni we have, how much body heat we have, or metabolic fire we have. The extract of the body fluids is going to nourish the blood depending upon the Agni of the Rasadhatu or the metabolic energy of the Rasadhatu. And then the metabolic fire of the rakt or the blood will take essence or from the blood and will nourish the third dhatu, which is the tissues. The essence of the tissues, depending upon how strong the agni is going to nourish the fourth dhatu, which is the fat. Extract of the fats, depending upon the fire or metabolism or metabolic energy of the fat, is going to nourish the bone. The essence of the bone is going to nourish the bone marrow, and the essence of the bone marrow is nourish the genetic material, the sperms, and the ovum. So there are 7 dhatus. Each dhatu have its own agni or metabolism. So the fifth or the sixth dhatu, which is Majja dhatu, is also something which is going to play a role into anxiety or depression. So if there's vata is hyperactive, that can cause anxiety and depression. So goal is to balance the dhatus, goal is to balance our doshas, goal is to balance and also make sure the agni is always proper. So we also look at the personal health, family relationship, career, and spiritual issues. And that is something we need to keep in mind when we're dealing with anxiety or depression. And there are times when there is not much we can do. And that's when you look at the spiritual issues, we look at the nature, the power, which is beyond our understanding. And basically we suggest that basically if you are things you cannot change, trust in God and then leave it to him. He will handle that. Basically, overthinking is not going to help at that point. The treatment we're looking at in Ayurveda recognize health complaints related to anxiety and depression. So there are many reasons. We look at the nutrient deficiency. The micronutrients such as vitamin D, B12, and iron are useful. So Ayurveda says that different types of anxiety or depression. We look at the anxiety depression. The majority of depression are caused by different deficiencies in the body. And when you're looking at the deficiency, we're looking at the GI based. So gastrointestinal system, which is the main organ or the only organ which absorbs all the nutrients, is the key. If you are not able to absorb all the nutrients, we will become weak. And if we don't have the energy physically or mentally, then we are not able to handle any stress in life. And for some people, even a small work becomes very stressful because they are weak emotionally, mentally, or physically. So in that case, keeping that in mind, when we're looking at the individuals who have GI issues, at that point, we need to be looking at some things which are going to support that. So when we look at the GI based, we look at the serotonin, which we know that is produced by the GI tract and that need to be supported. And we give them supplements like triphala, saffron, wormwood to make sure that the digestive system is working properly. And also reason being, we know that the 2/3 of the neurons and which is 2/3 of the nervous system and endocrine system resides in the GI tract. So by supporting the GI tract, we are also supporting the nervous system. And so basically the first key when we are suffering or someone else is suffering from anxiety, depression, we always look at the symptoms of or the health of our GI tract. And individuals who are anxious most of the time, they know there is some deficiency and people either overeat, and most of the time they're looking at these little pleasure food, which is mostly junk food, potato chips or carbohydrates, so or things like donuts. So more sugar, and because the brain is spinning so fast, and so they keep eating those. And people who are depressed, they may not go to sugar, but they probably will go something salty and or basically potato chips or pretzels or things like that. They keep mulching, keep eating food, and that food actually the only thing it can do is gain more weight, and that cause more problem. So GI tract is the first place where we do feel the effects and the symptoms. And if you know someone, or if you feel that, basically pay attention what your body is lacking. Reason being, you're not absorbing all the nutrients properly. There could be inflammation, there could be irritable bowel syndrome, there could be SIBO, there could be many other inflammatory diseases. So pay attention to that one. And sometimes you find that simple probiotic will be helpful in that case. Then we look at the liver base. Again, liver is the organ which handle emotions, anger, frustration. So anything we feel is handled by the liver. So many individuals who have weakness in the liver, that liver will cause irritability, and that will also cause depression. So when you feel that, pay attention to your liver health. Fatty liver is so common in the Western culture or countries. At this point, no, people don't even pay attention because it's so common. And that is not something we need to be dealing with. So people who uh, smoke, people who use alcohol on frequent basis, uh, more than 2 or 3 times a week, and there are individuals who basically drink every day, and not only just a beer, but very strong liquor. And I have patients who will tell me that even though they will take 6 glasses of vodka, but they are not considering themselves somebody who drinks too much, because they don't drink every day. They only drink 6 days a week. Well, that is too much. So keep that in mind. It's going to affect the liver and other parts of the body also. Then we have inflammation. So anytime we have neuroinflammation, or so, or any part inflammation, nervous, basically, then we need to be looking at the anti-inflammatories, because anytime we have inflammation, that is going to cause more and more and more problems. We need to be taking care of that also. Hormonal for example, the PMS, menopausal, postpartum, that will also cause basically issue with the depression or anxiety. Aging process actually is very strong. We're finding that many people who are going through the aging process, old age, nobody want to get old, believe me. But again, this is a natural process. So with the commonly, when you find in elderly, the fear of death, the fear of losing somebody, a spouse, or over medication induced, basically when they're seeing 3 or 4 doctors every week because of the heart disease, because of the arthritis, because of the nervous system, so, or because of GI, and these doctors are not communicating with each other. So when you are taking so many drugs, they could be prescribed, but again, the interaction of those can cause many problems. So this is a major issue in the elderly population. And then we have the cardiovascular based individuals who are recovering from myocardial infarction, or who had any heart disease in the past or still have. So they're also living in fear. And many who had the coronary artery bypass graft surgery, they go into depression because there's a big scar, and they feel like the heart is not as strong, or they don't look that good, especially in case of female. And that is also becomes the issue. Stress induced, again, stress, everybody has stress. So many people who have stress induced depression, anxiety, the main thing become when they're stressed, they either they don't eat or they overeat, and most of the time overeat. So obesity become a problem, anemia become a problem if they're not having good diet. And so basically in that case, um, nutrient deficiency is very common. The natural foods which used to carry nutrients are lacking anymore. So basically mostly people are dependent upon the outside sources. So organic food, locally grown food is something which you need to be keep in mind, because they are made from the same air, water, or the sources where we are living. So they will be supporting us much better. Foods coming in the can, foods coming from other parts of the world may not be the same which we find local. So always find local food, and because they will support our own body. So in that case, when we're looking at the nutrients, usually people who are deficient in omegas or omega-3 fatty acid, deficient vitamin C, D, B1, B2, and B6, B12. So that is very common. So we need to be looking at things like spirulina, which have all the B vitamins. So when we look at those reasons which can cause the depression, anxiety, we need to resolve those issues. Somebody who is in pain, and because of pain, they are depressed because they can't move around, and they go to doctor and tell them, I am and patient doctor basically give them a diagnosis of depression. Well, this depression is because of the pain. We need to be thinking about the cause of the pain, treat the pain, reverse the condition instead of putting the person on more drugs because of depression. So we always need to be looking at the cause of that. So like I said in the beginning, cortisol is because of the stress we are. So if we manage that somehow, then many other things can be saved. Otherwise, the overproduction of cortisol will affect the brain, the thinking of the brain, the storage of memory, and also many other parts of the body. So why not work on that part? So let me bring it to the Ayurvedic treatments. We're looking at these. So basically, recognize health complaints related to anxiety and depression, nutrient deficiencies, micronutrients such as vitamin D, B12, and iron are the most common. Identify environmental behavior, lifestyle factors. So you're looking at the environmental or behavioral or lifestyle factors. Those are very important. And again, because of the current situation, COVID, the human interaction is not there much. So again, for that we have these Zoom calls, or we have the other FaceTimes. We should be communicating with our friends on continuous basis, or basically family need to, instead of watching TV, we need to bring some games home and play games. So the interaction between family members, sharing things, discussing, talking. Somebody like to play music, then we need to listen to music or dance or do something together. So use this time as a memorable time, because again, one thing we need to keep in mind, instead of looking at the negative, look at the positive. Because of COVID, the family is together. Many families have children staying home, the classes are from home, spouse is working from home, so we are together. So use that as a positive thing, that we are here and let's do things together which we were not able to do in the past. And so identify those and work with those. Diet, exercise, and lifestyle that need to be changed. Going for a walk. There are families I see every day who go for a walk because nobody's going to work. So 9, 10 o'clock, go for a good walk, 15, 20, 30 minutes in the afternoon, going for a walk. So basically, it's a time to rejuvenate and heal yourself. But many times this is caused by the toxins, and that is what we need to also look at. Detoxification is a major thing which I would find to bring body physically, mentally, and emotionally to balance. So medication, we look at the botanicals. Passiflora is very strong or very good medicine or herb for nervous system. Ziziphus, valerian, we know that is very calming. Ashwagandha or Withania is really one of the top herb of the world to manage the stress. And again, not only manage stress, but also basically balances the many functions of the body. Reason being, your nervous system controls the entire physiology. So when we are balancing the nervous system, we are balancing the functions of the body also. Brahmi or Bacopa is really strong supplement for strengthening the nervous system. So many times you're not able to handle the stress is because our brain is becoming weak, because of a disease, because of continuous stress, or because of the aging process. So there could be many factors, or we didn't sleep well. So in that case, sleep is one of the triads of life, which means good sleep is important. 8 hours of sleep is actually needed. Mint and chamomile tea is very calming. So look at the spices: turmeric, ginger, cumin seed, coriander, black pepper, clove. Turmeric here actually is given the priority. Reason being, not only is a anti-inflammatory, it is also anti-tumor. So cancer is becoming a big issue, and that's why many people are going to depression because of the fear of some kind of disease. Also, it's called golden herb, not because of the color, but because it has many other functions. It is one of the best known antibiotic in case you have infection, or antiseptic. So you put externally and internally. It is also antihistamine, good for allergies. So if nothing is available, take turmeric. But only thing is, turmeric had to be taken either with fat. So that's why golden milk became popular, or with black pepper, or with bromelain. Ginger actually is one herb which have 5 out of 6 taste. So very good for circulation. Again, brain also requires circulation. So ginger and cumin tea will be very good to drink once or twice a day. And ginger, you take basically 1/4 of a powder, teaspoon of powder if you have powder, or you just take the fresh ginger and grate that in your tea and come to the boil water for 3-4 minutes. And in that, if you want to put a little bit of mint, that will be even better. If you have issue with the gut, you may want to add cumin seed. But if you are a pitta person and you have hyperacidity, then you don't want to use ginger. Excessive ginger can overstimulate the glands to produce more acid, and then you have more burning. That's not what we want. At that time, you may want to use coriander, which is cooling and calming. And with that, you may want to take basically Brahmi or chamomile tea and also ashwagandha. So these herbs are used to calm down. But people who have, say, basically somebody who have cardiovascular system based anxiety or depression, at that point they need to be supporting that organ by taking herbs like Arjuna. So basically Arjuna is as a herb which is actually a very good herb for, bark is used to stimulate and also to strengthen the heart muscles. Or they also want to take Withania. They may want to take Bacopa complex to manage their hypertension. And if somebody have hypertension, they need to looking into what causes hypertension. Then they look at the cholesterol. And if cholesterol is high, then they should think which organ is responsible for cholesterol. They need to be thinking about their liver. So we always find the root cause and work on the root cause. And so the metabolism had to be improved. So keeping that in mind, we reduce anxiety and depression. So in that case, the basic thing is talk to a friend, talk to your family, talk to significant. There had to be somebody where you can talk to. And when I found one thing very important, that if we don't have somebody to talk to, or people don't have time for us, then the pets come very handy and useful. You can talk to your dog all day and he will never tell you no. He will listen. He will look at you like he understands everything. Or cat or any other pet you have. So I was surprised to know, and I'm sure you know that during the COVID time, the finding dogs were so difficult because their sale was high. And also at the places where you adapt a pet, there's so many applicants for adoption, because many people who were going through the depression realized that having a pet at home actually releases anxiety and depression both. So becomes a good friend. Pranayama or deep breathing is very important. So anytime we are under depression or anxiety, in general also, our body uses one thing the most: oxygen. So the brain continuously needs oxygen. We call the life force. And that is very, very important. So we can live without food for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or almost a month. And we can live without water for a few days if we have to. But without oxygen, we don't survive more than 5 or 6 minutes. So the brain start dying. So in that case, the most important thing for life is life itself, which is the oxygen. So deep breathing, pranayama, taking more life in, is very important. So every morning or every evening, if we do pranayama for 10-15 minutes and take a long deep breath, hold it for as long as we comfortably can, and that stretches the alveolar sac, all the walls of the alveoli. And as the wall is stretching, it becomes thin, and the permeability of that wall is now is increased. And in that case, the gas exchange is better. The body is able to release the carbon dioxide and absorb more oxygen. And that is the pulmonary respiration. And eventually that goes to the cells, and during cellular respiration, we're able to absorb more oxygen and release the carbon dioxide. So deep breathing is very, very important. It's what is calming. Anytime you're anxious, we always tell the person, stop, take a deep breath, calm down, and then start whatever you're doing, and the people will feel better. So anytime we make a mistake, anytime we are going through stress, laugh it off. So basically laughing is always good. And again, many times we make mistake, we take things too seriously. Laugh at yourself, laugh at your stupidity, laugh at your mistake. There's nothing wrong with that. Humans make mistake. So people sometimes go into depression because they made a mistake. And they think, how can I make a mistake? Well, you're not God. So we make mistake, accept that, and move on. Green tea is very useful antioxidant and helps in relaxation. Eating right is always the thing. So basically, during winter is the vata time. Everything is dry, rough. And also individuals who are above 50, 55, going to 60, they're entering into the vata age, more dryness. And if we are eating dry foods, potato chips, more beans, and pretzels, chips and salsa. So all these dry foods, which has no nutrition or not much, and they creates more vata. So in that case, the good fat is important, and in our way, we consider ghee is a good fat. So using more ghee, using more oils, olive oil, sesame seed oil, almond oil, and those oils are good, and so use that in your cooking, and so that is very important. And be mindful and be good, do good. So just think about your own health, and if you can help others, that will be also important. But some herbs are so important, especially with Withania, I mentioned Bacopa, I mentioned the ashwagandha, the uh, something to nourish the brain will be very useful, and basically use more of those. Uh, Mucuna actually is one of the herbs which we use a lot for anxiety or depression. So combination of those with like with the either vitamin B's, or you can use the herbs for that also. Have a sustained purpose of life beyond oneself. So when we have a purpose of life, we make plans and act on those, and be thinking about others also, what you can do for others. And in that case, then you basically are always there to do something for others. Exercise or yoga or tai chi, very important. So physical exercise, moving around, even though in the cold weather, again, going for a walk is important. Even though you may not be able to go for early morning or late evening, but during the day, walk around, or even just around your house or inside your house is important. So in yoga, certain poses, forward bending onto your lap, bend the hips so your weight is on not being carried on your back, downward facing dog position. So those some of the things which is basically, or just stretching is important. Spend time with your pet. Again, that is important. And so keeping that in mind, we want to make sure that we do that. These supplements or herbs, complex is a supplement or a combination of supplement. Basically, the main thing is Brahmi and the Vithania Rashwagandha. Combination of those is very, very useful to calming the mind. Vithania plex, again, the complex Brahmi, Vithania, Mucuna, Shankpushpi, all, and Bacopa clarity complex. All of these are working on the serotonin level, and also they calm the adrenal glands. So when we're looking at the stimuli, they are not that strong, and in that case, we are trying to the balance the production of hormones, and also basically the cortisol level is not produced that much. Basically, it balances that also, so it does not overstimulate the adrenal gland. So the complex, again, the first five are specifically for that. So complex is, like I said, is very, very important. Vithania plex, there are people who basically is a liquid, easily absorbed. There are individuals who drink like a bottle every week, and I tell them it's like too much. You take 1 tablespoon twice a day is plenty. Let your body do the work, but it's very calming, and balances entire endocrine system. Helpful in the sleep also, helpful in calming down, helpful in absorption. Like I said, people who have upset stomach or gut issues, because or diarrhea or constipation, depending on, mostly depressed will have less stimulation, so they will go into constipation. Anxious people will have diarrhea. They will call me, I can't hold anything inside. I've been 6 times already. Are you anxious for something? No, I'm not. Let's calm down, take a deep breath. And if you take Brahmi or Mucuna or Vithania plex, then it calms them down. So basically, calming is important. So in that case, we also like to work with the gut, because, like I said before, that is an organ which gets affected immediately when somebody is depressed or anxious. Uh, Also, the Brahmin Mucuna also we recommend mostly for elderly population, like people like me who are going to this above 60 age group. So in that case, the stress of everyday life plus the stress or the family stress of the diseases which come as we, even though we blame the age, is not the blame, is not how we have not taken care of our body in the past. So accumulation of toxins will bring many conditions. So and that will cause Alzheimer or other conditions. So the Mucuna Plus is also for that. So it helps the neuron function. It helps the regeneration of neurons. It helps the cleansing of neurons. So what happens when the neurotransmitters are not released properly? That these will help in that also. So with that, I'll take you back to some slides. So here there was a slide showing off in the depression what happens. So healthy synapse, basically synapse is a interaction between the axon and the dendrite, and then showing the synapse of a depressed person. So as you can see, the neurotransmitter released in the healthy synapse is very high. Also, well, you look at the uh, where is connecting, the receptors are also very high. So the neurotransmitter release from the axon going to dendrite, so that part is working properly. Whereas if you look at the person who is depressed, the neurotransmitters are less, and also the receptors are less. The information does not flow that smoothly, and that is something we need to keep in mind. So the Vithania plex or the Mucuna plex or the Bacopa complex or the uh, Shankapushpi, they do help in that journey. So we need to be using more of that. So we come back to what we were looking at, the herbs. So that's why I was talking about the Mucuna and the Brahmi and Vithania. Heptatone. I mentioned earlier, majority of people who are dealing with anxiety or depression have liver issue. So heptatone is a combination of herbs which basically supports our liver function. Liver handle emotions, anger, frustration, which we go through on daily life. And because of our diet, the heavy foods or food with a lot of animal fat, that will also add more stress to the liver. And eventually, when liver is not able to perform all the function, one of them is to break down the fat. The cholesterol is high, that affects the heart function, and then eventually, when we have hypertension, that affects the kidney function. So we keep adding more and more and more. So heptatone is very useful. Bacopa clarity plex is again a calming nerve tonic. Anybody who use the brain, which means all the students, anybody who works, everybody who is teaching, everybody who is in medical field, when we deal with stressful event, the Bacopa clarity plex is actually really a good combination. Bringraj is also an herb, which is also for nervous system and liver. So while it's working with the liver, it is also used as a herb to for people who are losing hair. So it also works on thyroid function. So thyroid and liver are two organs which are related with the hair loss. So people who are losing hair, they will also take that. But again, is basically balancing the hormones. Mint and chamomile tea mentioned before, really good combination to balance the hormones. Haritki is a herb which is also to help inside in the digestive system and also in the liver function. But triphala is one more combination very commonly used in Ayurveda. Is a rasayan, and rasayan is something used as a, or amla is also rasayan. Chawanprash is also rasayan, and rasayan means jara vyadhi vinashanam. Rasayan iti abhidhyate, which means one which is anti-aging. So it prevents or slows down the process of aging, and also any disease. So any condition you have, if you take rasayan, it will help. So if it becomes a medicine when you are sick, it is a tonic when you are not sick, and that is what called rasayan. So anybody can take that all the time if you like to, because only thing it will do is help you. Many individuals who are low in lithium will also be found depressed, or people who have depression, you will find they're low in lithium. even though brain should produce that. We are not in the favor of overloading yourself with the hormones, because body should produce them. But when you are very low in lithium, that will basically affect negatively. The negative thought process comes, and that person sometime will think about the suicidal activities. So basically at that point, small dosage of lithium, 0.5 milligram or so, start with very small dosage, will be helpful. Magnesium is really good for relaxation. People who are under stress because of physical work or mental, emotional. So magnesium will be good. 400 to 800 milligram once or twice a day will be helpful. Calcium is also good for relaxation. So basically, we need to keep in mind that we need to take these supplements on regular basis. Shirodhara is a therapy in Ayurveda. So when someone have heavy metals, they also cause depression, anxiety, or when somebody have overproduction or overgrowth of the bacteria or SIBO, when they move from large intestine to small intestine, or any other of the or parasites, and parasites not only in the intestine but also in the blood, then the toxin released by them will also cause depression or anxiety. At that time, detoxification is very, very important. And in Ayurveda, Panchakarma is done. One of the part of Panchakarma is Shirodhara. Shirodhara is the oil drip on the pineal gland. So this little place where you see dot. So pineal gland is the place for pineal gland, and the continuous flow of the Shirodhara, the oil basically drip here for about 45 minutes, is very calming, but also it brings the old emotions back. Sometimes we live entire life and we keep hiding our emotions, never release them, because we do want to look strong. And that strength makes us weak inside. When you're holding so much inside for so long, not only that will make you depressed or anxious, also causes many conditions, including heart disease and in fact, including cancer. Because these old emotions sitting inside start eating the individual from inside. So that need to be released. So sometime, what are the good effect or side effect of Shirodhara is, people have old emotions and now they can't handle it. As the pineal gland is stimulated, it will stimulate the pituitary gland, and pituitary gland will stimulate the entire endocrine system, and person will have to tell somebody. Otherwise, you find them crying and crying and crying and non-stop, because all the emotions, all the pain, everything is coming out. And they say they have a side effect. It's not a side effect. It's cleansing your mind, cleansing your thought process. You were cluttered for so long, it's coming out. So when you feel like crying, we should cry. When you feel hungry, we should eat. When you feel like going for a toilet break, take that break and go. Don't hold. So same thing with the emotions. Do not hold the emotions. And if you're holding them for too long, they keep multiplying, growing inside, and then they not only hurt you, make you weak, they need to come out. Shirodhara, I found a very effective treatment in the release of emotions. Meditation, of course, is useful. So meditation. And meditation, again, is important to spend time with yourself. So when we close our eyes, you should be going internally, connecting with yourself as you take a long, deep breath and you inhale. With that inhalation, we follow that breath, taking through nostrils to your lungs, from lungs to heart to every part of the body. And as you're traveling, you will feel if there is any pain, if there is any abnormality in that organ. So travel yourself with your breath in your body, and you will diagnose yourself. That's where I feel stuckness, that I feel obstruction, I felt the pain. And as the body talks to you, do anything possible to bring it to balance. Yoga, of course, is union with yourself. And that's how you feel when you're doing all these poses. Again, yoga, when you do the asanas, this is only one part of the 8 limbs of yoga. But most of people think stretching or doing the asanas is the whole yoga. No, there's a lot more than that. So, but that is one reason, or one process through which you know about your body, the flexibility, the elasticity, and what other organs are feeling. Chanting, of course, releases all the emotion. Again, sometimes you chant certain words, some spiritual words, some mantras, and that will give you internal power. Abhyanga is very important, where you take a warm herbal oil and massage your body. So nourishing your body, bringing the elasticity, especially the joints. And again, most of the toxins are fat soluble. This will also help remove and dissolve the fat in the under the skin and adipose layer, also the joints, and so body releases them. So whatever it takes, try to use those things. So basically, the anxiety and depression depends on how you want to treat yourself. If you have any toxins in the body, then seek the medical advice of somebody who's trained to detoxify yourself. If you have any underlying condition, any chronic disease, take care of that. If you have any emotional issue, talk to a friend, a family member, and then whatever you're holding inside, release that. But again, this is up to you. If you want to be happy, if you want to be sad. So this is something I found, written by Voltaire long time ago. I decided to be happy because this improves my health, which is true. When you are depressed or anxious, is only going to take you down and cause more and more and more problem, because there are three ways of treatment in Ayurveda. We're looking at the medication, meditation, visualization. Visualization is looking at yourself and see how you want to be. So if you want to be healthy, look at yourself and see, I want to be healthy. And as you think, as mentally you are thinking more about healing, you heal. Based on your thought process, your nervous system releases hormones. And as you know, all the hormones and enzymes are dealing and handling and controlling our body physiology. So in that case, if you want to reverse the condition, think about positivity, think about a fighter, think about being successful, think about being healthy, and that will change the way you live your life. And I thought this was useful. If not, give me a call, we'll go more detail. The timing actually becomes the issue when I have roughly about an hour to talk. And so we still have about 7-8 minutes. And if you need more time, I'm here. Any question you have, I'd like to answer your questions. Again, be well, stay healthy, and again, Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kaushik. It was an excellent presentation. If anyone does have any questions, we do have a few minutes. If you can write them in the chat box, I will be happy to read them out to the doctor.
Yes. So we have a clinic in Cross River, and also again, there are communication through the libraries. We also teach Ayurveda in case somebody want to learn from themselves, their family, and eventually want to become an Ayurvedic practitioner. So there are numbers. You can call me at my cell phone number, which is 646-670-6725, and then the office phone number. But again, even though if you don't want to come as a patient or as a student, and if you need help, call me. Your goal is to create health and create a balance.
Okay, I do have one question.
Yes.
Let's see. How do you determine whether someone's depression is the result of a brain chemistry issue that requires medication? Put another way, in evaluating a patient's depression, what tells you that straight talk therapy is enough, or if pharmacological intervention is called for?
So the pharmacological basically means that you have a deficiency and you want to substitute that by giving you, or you want to give yourself some medication, which could be pharmaceutical. My choice is, if something is missing, I like to find that in nature-based. First reason being, when you find that in your food or the plant-based, the body thinks as a natural product and becomes part of its own. So you don't have to take that forever. So in that case, you take until the time your body is able to perform its own function. But in case of chemicals, you become dependent on that for the rest of the life, because body never considers a part of its own, and you have to supply that for the rest of the life. That's one thing. Second thing is, when you feel that you need a pharmacological or external intervention, is that when you as an individual do try to get up in the morning, for example, and your goal is that you set up your alarm at 6 o'clock or 5:30 in the morning. You do get up, but again, you are not able to do any function. You are so exhausted days after days after days. Then you need to seek a medical attention, see what is affecting that. One thing I'll tell you at home also, heat is the number one cause. So if you have cold hand and feet, you look at your thyroid function, but more than that, you look at adrenal function. So at home, you fill a bucket of water, hot water, or a tub half in the evening, soak your feet in that hot water for about 30 minutes, and then you wipe your feet, massage that with warm sesame seed oil, and then go to the bed. If you sleep well, and after doing that for about a week, you see that waking up in the morning is not as stressful as it was your adrenal gland, and then you keep sporting them. At that point, if you need to take mint tea, that is helpful. Mint or ginger tea is even better. Withania plex or ashwagandha is even better. So at that time, you sport your adrenal gland. You do not need me or anybody else at the time. You keep sporting that by providing nutrients, which are going to sport the adrenal gland. And that is basically any time when the weather is cold, any time your circulation is not good, your hand and feet will tend to become cold, even in the summer. So that tells you that. Second thing is, you know your digestive system. There are many individuals who will come to me and I ask them, what do you take for breakfast? And people will take, I don't take breakfast. When you have a long break all night, 7 or 8 p.m. we take dinner, and then in 7 or 8 a.m. we should take breakfast. After 12 hours, if you're not feeling hungry, something is wrong. So at that point, you need to be looking at your digestive system. And again, it stimulates that if you take cumin seed tea or ginger tea or ajwain tea. So if that doesn't stimulate your hunger, then there is something is wrong with your digestive system, and that's where you need the medical attention. Talk to somebody who can handle the digestive issues. So if you have again any inflammation, constipation, or diarrhea, and there are individuals who need attention on the constipation. If you're not going to have a good bowel movement twice a day, you have constipation, or at least one good bowel movement a day, which means well formed. You sit there in 3 to 5 minutes, you should be done. If you're spending 3 hours in the toilet and even going for every day, that means you are constipated. If you have any kind of bleeding, any hemorrhoid, and that is also an issue. So your body speaks to you if you pay attention. And if you are somebody who craves for a lot of sugar, and without eating sugar, you feel like something is crawling inside, then you need to be looking at the overgrowth bacteria or parasite. So medical attention, of course, you need to see expert, but again, look for something in your food first, and then look for herbs. And then that, if it doesn't help, then you may want to use, or you may have to use chemicals for some temporary time, but not for long term. Don't want to become dependent on that.
Okay, we have a couple of more questions I'm going to try to read off because we're running out of time. One of them is, what is the name of the tonic herb?
So there are 4 of them. Number 1, the simplest is the Withania plex, Withania, Withania plex. For everybody use, I take Withania because, like everybody else, I have a stress. I from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. So I see people who need help. And somebody who comes at 8 o'clock in the morning also requires the same attention. Somebody comes at 5 o'clock in the evening. So I need to be alert. So Withania keeps the neuron function well. And sometimes there are people who are frustrated. So I need to be able to be calm, to listen to them calmly. And there are sometimes people who are angry because they have been sick for whole life and somehow they could not find a doctor. So I tell them, calm down, let's talk. And so in that case, Withania is number 1. To boost the nerve function and to support the nervous system or brain, there are 3. The Brahmi plex or Bacopa plex. So Brahmi is number 1. Then there are Bacopa complex, which is a liquid easily absorbed. So Bacopa complex have Brahmi and Ashwagandha both. And then there is a Shankh Pushpi. Shankpushpi is also liquid. So people who are pitta, they have a lot of heat. We recommend Shankpushpi is calming and cooling. Brahmi is for everybody. But somebody who already have developed the condition where they forget, or then there is like a computer disk where they're retrieving information, it takes them time and they said, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Then Mucuna will be a good combination. So going back, Vithania, Brahmi, Brahmi, Shankpushpi, and Mucuna Plex or Mucuna or Plex, and the Bacopa Clarity Complex is the combination. Any of these will work if you need them, but there's no side effect of those anyway. So useful.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Let's see. Where do you obtain these Ayurvedic herbs?
So a lot of herbs are available online, but we have a full dispensary at our clinic, so you can call that office. So, or you can look online, but only thing is I'll suggest there are many, many, many companies who make those. Look for a authentic place. So I use Shri Sai Nutrients, SRISAI, Shri Sai Nutrient, Vedic Nutrients. Then there is the Ayush Herb, AYUSH. Ayush Herbs also make good products. And then Banyan Botanicals make good products. And there's a Maharishi Ayurveda products that are also good. So these are the 5 top I will recommend. Basically, the rules and regulations are many companies are not, or many people are not using the proper uh, process of producing herbs, and they combine anything and start selling those. Anything online is now available, but look for a good source. But these are the 5: Shri Sai Nutrients, Vedic Nutrients, Ayush Herbs, Banyan Botanical, Maharishi Ayurveda.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Kaushik. We're getting a lot of thank yous in the comments section.
Thank you, and we'll be talking soon.
I would hope so.